Welcome to the Lost and Found in the Philippines podcast. Get ready for a fun and wild ride as we explore finding love in the Philippines. Join your host as he shares his experience from 7 nearly month-long visits. He will cover what to know before you go and how to get prepared for your trip. You will also get some tips to help you think through what type of person you hope to meet and how to find them. Let's get ready to get lost and found in the Philippines. Here is your host, Trevor Williams.
Hey everyone, this is Trevor. I want to welcome and thank you all for stopping by my podcast. And I hope you enjoy and learn a lot of valuable information of what I'm going to tell you. First, for me, it's all about trying to help and save you the most money possible. The main reason for my podcast is the same reason for my YouTube channel, to save you money and be there for you. I want to educate you and help you be better prepared than I was when I first went to the Philippines. For those of you who have been following me since I created my YouTube channel, I am sorry I have not always been constant on my videos, but at least this way you will know what's going on and when I will be uploading new content to the channel. Since you're listening to my podcast, it's apparent you're interested in the Philippines in some form. On a side note, to those who are subscribers to the YouTube channel, I want you to know that I never block comments from being posted on my videos. I have no clue why comments are blocked. In the beginning, there was comments, but a fellow subscriber notified me and told me they're trying to post and they can't. So I tried to look into it, but came up empty-handed. I can't seem to figure out why they're blocked, but my apologies for that. I want this podcast to help you, whether it be just to go there for vacation, find love, or whatever other reason you might have. As long as you have an interest in the Philippines, I'm sure every episode I launch will have something that will spark your interest. For those of you that are willing to be open to the option of meeting someone in the Philippines and maybe even get married, once we get further along in the episodes, I will base an entire show on the K1 visa process and all the stress and waiting that comes with it. For those of you who are unaware what a K1 visa is, it's a fiancé visa. If you have ever heard or watched 90 Day Fiancé, that is exactly what it is. You fall in love with someone and you petition to bring them to the United States and get married. You have 90 days from the time that they arrive to get married, or they will end up being deported back to their country. On one of the next few episodes, we will go over where is the best place to start your adventure on finding love. That is for those of you interested in that. Along with finding love, we will go over some amazing places to visit and see while in the Philippines, such as Boracay, Bohol, Puerto Princesa, Cebu, Tagaytay, along with many other places that have so much to offer. I'm hoping if I get enough subscribers, we could do a Q&A portion of the show to where you can send me any questions you might have and I can answer them on the show. I was even thinking of setting up a voicemail and allowing you to call and leave messages for my show, and I can air them on the podcast. And that way, if there's something you want me to talk about, we can make sure that gets added for you. Above all, out of all the podcasts you could choose from, it is an honor to have you listening to ours, and we appreciate your support. Alright, I'm going to try to give you a quick overview on the Philippines. Their currency is called peso, and as of this recording, it is around 48 pesos equals 1 United States dollar. The average person over there makes $5 for 8 hours of work. For Americans, everything is extremely cheap, obviously, since a lot of American citizens retire over there because our money goes so much further. I had made a video showing how much food you can order and have delivered to you for $4.67. It included 4 pancakes, garlic rice, egg, a burger steak, chicken sausage, 2 of them, a breakfast sandwich, hot chocolate, pineapple orange juice, all for just that $4.67. It's crazy, but definitely one of the reasons that keeps me coming back for more. In the Philippines, you almost feel like a king, especially how kind the people are and the culture. You can walk down the street and actually be greeted by everyone you make eye contact with. Unlike a lot of places here in the US, some people would more likely give you the finger than say hi. In the city of Manila, there are 46,000 people per square mile. That's nearly double the density of New York City. Let me clear something up for you. It's going to quite possibly blow your mind even more. Manila is only 16.56 square miles compared to New York City, which is 302.6 square miles. Just think about that for a minute. It's just crazy. Manila is not even a quarter of the size of New York, and they have almost double the density. They're saying a total population in the Philippines is 109,581,078. They have over 175 dialects and languages. Tagalog is one of those dialects, and I will teach you a few words also. In Manila, a decent amount of people can speak English around the tourist areas. But if you're not careful and you get too far away from the main areas, like tourist areas, you can get yourself in places to where they don't speak good English, and there will be a huge language barrier. The Philippines is made up of 7,100 islands, with Manila being the capital, which is on the province of Luzon. The country is mostly of Catholic religion, and they take their religion very seriously. The people of the Philippines are very, very family oriented, and it's all about family for most of them. They are very loving and caring and very humble. The women are not like American women. They can be very loving and usually are very devoted to their partner. They are not shallow and usually not at all judgmental. Personally, I don't consider myself to be the most attractive guy, but in the Philippines, I feel like I am. There is no divorce. They have annulment, but it can be very timely and very expensive. So people just tend to be separated if they can't work things out and never get married again. A single beer in a bar costs around $2, but if it's happy hour, you can get a beer for about $1. They have one bar that I used to hang out at where happy hour starts at noon and goes all the way until 10 p.m. Very interesting, I know. As I was saying before about places to visit, Boracay, where you will find beautiful white sandy beaches and clear blue water, as well as Bohol, where you will find the tarsier, the world's smallest primate that is about the size of your finger. Not to mention Bohol is also where the Chocolate Hills are located. As far as your eyes can see, just miniature mountains all around you. Puerto Princesa is home to the underground river, which is one of the new wonders of the world. The river itself is more than 15 miles, and the cave is full of bats, and when you do the tour, like I did, which takes about 30 minutes, the guide tells everyone, if you look up, do not open your mouth. I highly recommend seeing the underground river. It's very beautiful, especially outside the river. It's pitch black inside the river, obviously, you're underground. El Nido and Coron are some great destinations on my list of places to go. I've never been to them. I've been to Boracay 6 times. I'm so in love with that place. It's so beautiful. It's so cheap, and I know when I visit El Nido and Coron, I will want to go there 6 times also. The tagline in the Philippines is, it's more fun in the Philippines, and I truly couldn't agree more. Next, I want to introduce myself to you so you know a little more about who you're listening to. I was born and raised in Ohio. Always loved the outdoors and traveling, as well as music and movies and going to concerts. I truly love Cedar Point. If you have never been or don't know what I'm talking about, you need to Google it and check it out, especially if you love roller coasters. Otherwise, you might not want to go. I've sadly been married twice, both to women in the Philippines. Mistakes that were made that I learned from. The first was from Makati, who just said what I wanted to hear so she could use me to come to the US, and left me after she got her green card. Second wife was from Surigao, which is in Mindanao, which is an island in the south of the Philippines. It's about 2-hour flight from Manila. We were married for almost 4 years. But with her, we seemed so happy until I helped her become a registered nurse. And then she started making more money than me. And she was never home, to where we just slowly grew apart. I mean, she was making $25 an hour, and she felt she had to get a second job. she went and made her days off were the days that I had to work. So that kind of showed you a little bit there. I've been to the Philippines 7 times. The first time was back in 2011, and then again 2013, and twice in 2017, and twice again last year, and so far just once this year since COVID had to happen. Originally I was going to go back in October, the end of October, and be there for the elections here in the United States. I never had a thing about Asians. It is due to one of my dear close friends who met a Filipina. That's how I was introduced to them. We were in our late 20s. I'm 41 now, by the way. We were in our late 20s, and he always said, I'm going to marry a Filipina. I'm going to find one, and I'm going to marry one. And I was like, you're drunk. Shut up. As it turned out, he met one from a gay Filipino that introduced him to her, and they got married. It was just so crazy that he went off on hope. He gave up his life here in the U.S. to stay in the Philippines for, I think, about almost 5 years, if not 5 years. He flew over there to meet and spent time with her, and he just couldn't leave. So he intentionally missed his flight, and he assimilated. They got married and lived together, and he got a job in the Philippines, and then he brought her back here to the United States. They ended up having 2 kids together since he met her, and things seemed like they were working out. I was like, well, if he can do it, I'm pretty sure I can do it. Why the hell not? And I put up a Craigslist personal ad, and that's how I connected with my first wife. But had I known, it wasn't not really her who I was chatting with. It was someone she knew that was trying to help her find someone to use to come to the United States. A scam. One thing about the Philippines, unless you see them on camera, don't trust them. And if they immediately ask you for money, be extremely careful that you're not being used. There's a lot of people suffering, and I understand they could be sincere, but from my experience, the true ones will not ask you for anything. If you feel like a situation is off, trust your instincts, whether it be regarding with a woman or anything. Just sometimes it's best to be safe than sorry. Trust how you feel instead of ignoring it. If I would have done that with my first wife, she would have never become my first wife. But I ignored the warning signs I had. The first time we met there was so many red flags, but I wanted it to work, so I dismissed everything. Goes to show you things can be avoided as long as you're not stubborn and bullheaded, as I was. I've had some exciting times in the Philippines, and even though there were some very scary times, I've learned from them and know how to avoid them. I will help you avoid them as well. I usually fly Delta or Korean Airlines. My first trip to the Philippines, I flew American Airlines. I miss flying their airlines because they had the best options when it came to alcohol. The amazing thing I love about international flights is the alcohol is free. So it kind of helps with being on a single flight that lasts around 13 hours. And that is the flight, usually for me, it's from Atlanta, Georgia to Seoul, South Korea. Seoul. And then another flight that is about 4 to 5 hours from South Korea to Manila. Never wear flip-flops when traveling internationally. I'm going to tell you a story. I learned that the hard way. It was my second trip to the Philippines, and I figured I want to be comfortable on my flight. So I just wore flip-flops, and there was an issue with my flight going to Chicago to Tokyo. I ended up doing a lot of walking and running to catch my flight. I spent almost 5 hours walking around Chicago O'Hare Airport until they got me rescheduled on a flight to San Francisco. And then I didn't know where I was going in the San Francisco airport, so I was running around there because when I realized where I was supposed to be, I had to run. I did even more running, and by the time I made it to the gate of my flight, I had seen them just finish closing the door, and I was so frustrated. I said, I need on that plane, and they apologized and told me once the door is shut, they can't reopen it. And mind you, it's around midnight by this time, so I had to walk away from seeing my plane outside the window. They led me back to the ticketing counter and told me to wait there for them to open back up, and they'll get me on the next flight out. Now, I don't know about you, if you've ever been in an airport that's pretty much done for the day with airlines, people trying to catch their flight, and it's like a almost feels like a homeless shelter. You just have people pushing carts around with their luggage, and some people sleeping on benches, somebody laying on benches, playing on their phone, charging it. And I'm tired. I was tired, but there is no way in hell I'm going to sleep with my stuff out in the open. I had a laptop with me and my phone and other valuables and wasn't taking the chance. So I just got an Uber and booked a hotel room, and I do remember on the way to the hotel, I noticed gas was around $5 a gallon, and I was just blown away by that. That was a lot more than what it was in Ohio. I think in Ohio we were almost $2 at that time. But anyway, back to the story. I got to the hotel, called the airline, they helped me get another connecting flight, and then went to sleep and got up, and that had me going to Hong Kong now instead of Tokyo, another place I had never been. By the time I made it to Manila, my feet were swollen, and it's mainly just because I wasn't wearing appropriate support for my feet for all that walking and running that I never expected I was going to be doing during the day. And that was not at all fun. I couldn't walk for a whole day. Kept them on ice to get the swelling down. Lesson learned. Even if you don't expect your flight to be interrupted, dress like it will be. I remember one of my trips to where I had a layover in Tokyo. The first time I had ever been there, and I was so amazed by it. They had like multiple different flavors of Kit Kat bars. Oh my, so freaking yummy. My favorite is strawberry, so if you ever get over there to Tokyo, check out the flavors of Kit Kats. I made sure the next time I had a layover in Tokyo, it was more than 12 hours, so I could leave the airport and go sightsee for a little bit. My first night in Tokyo was extremely weird, but cool at the same time. It was all new, and the hotel I stayed at was so high-tech. The rooms are extremely small. I remember the bathroom, and it was incredibly small. I was so glad that I wasn't a big person. They had a vending machine that you could buy beer out of it. That just blew me away too. My last time being in Tokyo was actually this past February when I had a layover coming back from the Philippines, where I stayed the whole month, February. I had considered buying a ticket and going to check out Australia, but at the time they were having those fires and COVID had just started. Luckily, I left the Philippines when I did. Even if I would have stayed one more week, I would have been stuck. That would have been very interesting, as I would have ran out of money. That just about does it for this episode, but I want to leave you with one more thing. A very close friend of mine and I were talking, and I did the research. He brought up the topic to why flights do not go over the Pacific, like a direct flight to Asia. Why do we have to fly up towards Alaska and then come back through Russia? So I found flights and I measured it. I did find flights that were flying from Guam to Los Angeles. So I took the distance from going from Manila to Guam to Los Angeles to Columbus, Ohio, and compared those numbers to the flights I normally take. And as it turns out, my normal route is Columbus, Ohio to Atlanta, Georgia to Seoul, South Korea to Manila. And the result I found, going the flights I take currently, it's 700 miles closer flying up by Alaska. I found that very interesting. And another thing I found, that flying to Manila from Hawaii is more expensive than flying to Manila from Columbus, Ohio. So crazy. And they're probably half the distance. And they're twice as expensive as it is here right now. I think in Columbus, Ohio, I can get a ticket, even though we're not allowed in the Philippines right now. I can buy a ticket for almost $800. It's for Hawaii to buy a ticket, it's at least $1,400 from the places I found. But just a thought. Have a great week, and thanks for listening. Stay safe, and God bless, and be careful. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Lost and Found in the Philippines. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. If you like the show, leave a review and be sure to tell a friend. For even more, check out the Lost and Found in the Philippines YouTube channel.